Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is round number 1 of the Australian Offshore Superboat Championships here at mighty Wyndham Harbour, Victoria, Australia. Welcome to everybody that was watching around the world on GP Hydro live streaming, and the big boys are coming out to play. We're going to see a sighting lap from these guys as well in the same fashion as we did in the Superboat 65 and 85 mile an hour categories. Boats we're looking for, Maritimo Racing, and most of you that follow any boat racing anywhere around the world will know these guys. The might of the Maritimo team, Tom Barry Cotter and Ross Willerton. Ross, world champion. Willerton, of course, along with Tom as well. Absolute superstars of the sport. Running a pair of 750 horsepower V8 big block Maritimo race engines in a 42-foot Maritimo racing hull. 222 offshore, Darren Nicholson and Peter Muddy McGrath. The hull is also a Maritimo hull. They are running Johnny Barbagallo race engine, 750 horsepower per side, ladies and gentlemen. And the third boat, and the newcomers to the category, although we have had this boat on the circuit for a long time, it's had many incarnations. It started life as a Riviera boat. It went through, it was Team Navy. The Fryer boys ran it for many years. It was called Mega Fuels, for those of you that may remember. It is now called Superbad, and it's Ryan Coleman and Steve Jellick. They are also running Johnny Barbagallo race engines, and a lot of you will know Johnny Barbagallo mostly from drag car racing. John's an absolute legend of an engine builder and gets the most out of these engines. Then we've got the outboard boats, the Saracen with Anthony DeFina and Matt Kelly. Andy Taylor and Paul Folds in the Team 77 AMT. Then we're looking for Scott Richardson and Stephen Kelly in the TCR, Team Colonel Racing, and the Sting, Mike Radcliffe and Carl Wall in the beautiful yellow machine. And we all know yellow boats go faster. That's because mine is. So these boats are heading out onto the water. Supercat 600 is limited to stock 300 horsepower engines, all of them running the Mercury product. Saracen running the current spec 4.6 litre quad overhead cam 4-valve per cylinder V8 4-stroke. The rest of the boats in that category running the earlier style 300 horsepower Optimax engines. So we get them come down on their sighting lap. We'll run through and we'll pick them up for you. Maritimo 11, Ross Willerton and Tom Barry Cotter. Team Navy 222 Racing, Peter Muddy McGrath and Darren Nicholson. Superbad on the outside, Ryan Coleman and Stevie Jellick. And our Supercat 600 boats on the far inside, you can see the yellow machine, the Sting. Outside of them is the AMT on the outside of that boat. The silver, purple and orange machine is the Saracen, and Team Colonel Racing on the far outside of them. It is going to be on. This is the first race of the year, and it's great to see Team Navy and 222 back on the water in Australia after a hiatus from racing in Australia for a couple of seasons. Fantastic to have Darren Nicholson and Peter Muddy McGrath back on the water. Muddy McGrath, of course, a legend of powerboat racing in his own right. In fact, between himself and Ross Willerton in the Maritimo boat, we've got over 700 years racing experience. And both these men know how to throttle boats, and this is going to be absolutely on. So we'll take them up to the top end of the course. Great to see Team Navy and the Australian Navy getting on board and supporting the 222 team, not only here in Australia, but also with their American racing efforts as well. And the boat looks absolutely resplendent in its Navy livery. Pretty excited to see how this one goes, and you are in the best spot, folks, because turn number 1 is where all hell's going to break loose here for round number 1, race number 1 of the Australian Offshore Superboat Championship. Brought to you by the mighty Wyndham Harbour. Beautiful precinct down here, and we thank everybody involved. I've been eating pizzas, I've been drinking beer, I've been enjoying the ambience. It's almost like the boat racing got in the way there for a moment, but we got back focused and got back on track. Might even go and have a smack of some mini golf there later on. Might be a bit of us, I think. Harbour's absolutely beautiful, and the harbour here has, I see they've got wet berths and dry berths as well for storage. So if you want to get on board down here, folks, fantastic location. Nice and close to Port Phillip Heads, nice and close to Melbourne. You can see it from here. And a ripper spot to store your boat. So teams heading up into the top end. For those of you that maybe haven't seen offshore powerboat racing before, all of these boats have 2 crew on board. One crew member handles the throttles and the trimming of the boat, and the other crew member steers the boat. He's the pilot. So they're such complex boats that it does take 2 people to operate them. The throttle man is watching up in close, wave to wave. When the boats jump out of the water, the propellers run free, break free of the water, and the idea is that you don't want to rev these engines and destroy them by free revving them. So the throttle man, when the boats leave the water, have to come off the throttles, but then they have to time getting back on the throttles as the rear of the boat re-enters into the water, so as not to what we call trip and duff the boat, where the back of the boat's going, the propellers are going slower than the boat speed, and actually trips the boat up and stuffs its nose in. So they've got to be back on the throttle when the boat re-enters the water. These sorts of conditions, throttle men will just hammer the throttles down and go for it, because it's very, very smooth for these big boats out here. In this one, in the rough conditions, makes a little bit more of a difference. The pilot is doing strategy around other boats around the course and needs to find all the turn buoys. Obviously even though this is a short course in offshore terms, it's quite still a big course to find all the turn buoys and get around them. So that is what the pilot's job does, and that's the strategy that he runs around all the other boats and the course. So white flag flying high on our start boat, and flag drops and the you-know-what stops. Ladies and gentlemen, we are racing, and the big bangers, the throttles open up and wait for the roar as they come down into turn number 1 as Maritimo and Triple Two dancing high. Maritimo, a little bit of a porpoise on the inside. They're going to have a good inside run here. There's really nothing in this now as they charge down, and I tell you what, the Superboat running with them hard down into turn number 1. Nicholson and McGrath round the outside of Barry Cotter as they go into turn number 1 for the first time. The Superboat doing a great job around the outside. This is their first race in this boat in this category. But Maritimo, Tom Barry Cotter and Ross Willerton, have a look at the 600 horsepower boats now. You can throw a blanket over them as they come down into the bottom turn. I can't pick anyone who's in front. AMT looks like they might have run a little bit inside there. They're running a very awkward and odd line. I don't know what's going on there with the AMT. And the Sting pokes its nose into the lead, back to TCR, then Saracen, AMT, gunnel to gunnel as they fire up the back straight away for the first time. Don't know what happened with AMT. There might be some discussion about that first corner around the table this evening, but the battle will continue on now. But at the moment, it is the Sting, Mike Ratcliffe and Carl Wall. Mike Ratcliffe, the newcomer to this category. He's only run this boat once before, and now he finds himself with clear water in front of him. Up the back chute we go. The Saracen boat, I thought, might have had a little bit more go with its brand new 300R Mercuries, but they're still in developmental stages. And they run up side by side with the AMT at the moment. TCR doing a great job with Stevie Kelly hard on the throttles there. And Scotty Richardson, of course, doing steering duties in that particular boat. Up through the top turn we go, and it is gunnel to gunnel as the 2 big Maritimo hulls. Maritimo, Ross Willerton, Tom Barry Cotter, absolutely nothing in this. Gunnel to gunnel now. The Navy, Triple Two, Darren Nicholson, Peter McGrath. They don't want to get beaten by Maritimo. There's plenty of angst between these two teams, and it is absolutely on. And I'll give you the tip. The Superbad, Ryan Coleman and Stevie Jellick. Stevie J, an incredibly experienced throttle man, pushing very, very hard. And they've dropped into pole position now as these boats fire down the front straight away in anger for the very first time. Maritimo now just trying to hold out the Team Navy Triple Two Racing. Nothing in this between the big bangers at the moment. And just pointed out now, it looks like the cockpit lid might have come open on Team Navy. We'll pick that up for you. And they seem to have just lost a little bit of ground down through turn number 1. Okay, here's the 600 horsepower category, and we've had a change of leader. TCR comes through. Scotty Richardson and Stevie Kelly in the AMT hull. Just push out the Sting out to the outside. AMT now having a hard charge from the back of the pack after a bad start for those guys, and Saracen running on pole. Not the pace that I would have expected from that boat at the moment, but there's really nothing in this 600 horsepower category at the moment as the TCR fires its way down the back straight. Saracen now having a little bit of a look up the inside of the Sting, and AMT running to the outside of those guys. Joining me in commentary is my old mate Andrew Horatio Aloysius Murphy. Big weekend for you at the Australian Formula Grand Prix last weekend, mate. Now your son's out racing this weekend. Welcome.
Thanks, mate. It's great to be here. Great to see massive crowds here. Wyndham Harbour, the offshore superboats are here. This is international category racing, Bish, and great to have you here with us this weekend, mate.
Oh, mate, great to have you here, mate. I missed you last weekend, but your son was out in the action property maintenance boat earlier on as we were watching this battle go on between Maritimo and Triple Two, but how did he go?
Mate, they had a good run. They started out, they're pretty happy. They had an electrical fault, so they were actually losing charge, so that's what shut the boat down. They got on the tools, they found a bad earth lead, and then the boat fired and ran, so they're in the pits now trying to work through it. Some updates, GPS. The boys from Giggling, your mate Mark Sutherland, 64.9 mile an hour, and the boys, Harry the Boatman Backer is through clean as well, so it looks like that'll stand, but have a look at this, Bisho.
Absolutely on. Thanks for the update there, Murph. Maritimo pushing hard. This is going to be a struggle here for Team Navy Racing. Triple Two running this wide line, much in the same fashion that Giggling had to run to the outside in the 65 mile an hour category. Very hard to make up ground when these boats are so evenly matched. Superbad, this boat, freshly rebuilt, back in the water with a brand new driver in it. Ryan Coleman doing an amazing job in this boat at the moment, and this thing's showing some real potential for further on in the season as Stevie Jellick gets it in hard and just gets on those throttles and pushes away. You see the rooster tail come up. He's not holding anything back here in boat number 15, the Superbad, at the moment. Up the back chute we go, and Triple Two still dropping out. The real battle and the real interest here for me at the moment is TCR on the inside and Sting on the outside in the 600 horsepower category. They are absolutely having a ding-dong here at the moment at Wyndham Harbour as they tip down into the port turn. And in fact, have a look at the corner speed carrying in by Sting as they run the wide line and try and maintain some momentum over TCR. And they do in fact make some ground. AMT have made some ground on Saracen as well. Not the pace out of Saracen that I would have expected. These boys have got a little bit of work to do with these brand new 300R four-stroke Mercuries. They did say they were a little bit down on top speed, but at the moment they are struggling to go with the pack. That is Anthony DeFina and Matty Kelly in the Saracen just out the back of the field, and it is not a place that they're used to being. Next race on the card, on the calendar, ladies and gentlemen, is down at Corio Bay, the 18th and 19th of March. Round number 3, Harvey Bay, 24th and 25th of June. And round number 4, Lake Macquarie, on the 14th and 15th of October. So if you're watching at home and you live in any of those areas, make sure you put them in the diary. We need to see you. We've got more boats coming online. Unfortunately, Team Dynamic unable to get here to Victoria this weekend, but we will see them in Geelong. So there'll be a 4-boat superboat category, which should be good. Triple Two look like they have got a bit of a fight on their hands. Here's Maritimo now, Tom Barry-Cotter and Roscoe Willerton pull away from Darren Nicholson and Peter Muddy McGrath in the Triple Two Navy Offshore Racing team. Superbad, impressive I think in their first race ever for Mike Radcliffe, so doing a great job. Stevie Jellick, incredibly experienced throttle man in this boat, and I'll tell you what, Mike has done a great job to sign up Stevie Jellick in this boat because he couldn't get a more experienced man on the sticks than Stevie J as they go up the back straight away, doing a beautiful job. Fabulous drone shots coming through from Airscape Drones, and Andy doing a fantastic job. Superbad up the back straight away. 22 minutes left to run in this race, and it's all about reliability as well as this battle continues on in the 600 horsepower category. It is an absolute gunnel-to-gunnel fight to the death here at the moment between TCR and the Sting. TCR hard on the pins. Have a look at the boat speed. The Sting carries into the corners here. This Skater Cat is going very, very quickly. TCR trying to run that tight line and run the shorter line, but I think at the moment the Sting maintaining the momentum and actually making a bit of ground on them as they go on the big sweep up through the top turn. I think they're doing just a slightly nicer job there than the TCR, although TCR with good acceleration coming out of the corner and maintaining their lead. But I tell you what, the Sting is all over them like a fat kid on a cupcake at the moment. AMT up into third place, doing a good job, and they've made a little bit of ground here. Tell you what, Murph, pretty impressed actually with Superboat at the moment. This is a new boat for these guys, and Stevie J's pushing it hard.
They certainly are, Bish, and we probably didn't expect that. You've got it, like, it's hard if you're not into this sport to understand just what's got to come together just to get one of these on the water, and they're out there with the best in the business, and they are absolutely sitting with them, and the boat sounds strong, and it looks good. The balance through the corners, unbelievable.
Yeah, he's doing an amazing job. Ryan's really got a handle on this boat. It would seem pretty much straight from the outset. The other thing that's really interested me is new engines on the Saracen, normally a front runner. They've got some development to do.
Yeah, they have. I spoke to Steve just before this morning. They had some testing on the other side of the bay in choppy conditions. They were really happy with the boat speed. Had a quick run in flat water here. They reckon they're down 10 mile an hour, Bish. So they were seeing numbers around the 100, a little bit 100 plus. And down here they reckon about 90 odd mile an hour. So they're not sure. They've had no flat water testing with these brand new engines. And that's what you're looking at right there.
Yeah, they'll be pretty frustrated with that, I think, Murph. But the race continues on. An absolute ding-dong. I tell you what, the Sting, the yellow machine, the Skater Cat, quite a bit heavier and a lot older boat than the AMT machine TCR that's leading. They're doing a great job to keep in contact with them at the moment.
They certainly are, Bish, and you mentioned the strategy. Obviously, they're playing to their strengths, and they're making really good ground through here and up into this headwind. So that heavier boat with that little bit of wind lift is potentially picking up the speed. TCR's obviously got the straight line, but tactically, I really like the way they're playing this. They're working to their own advantage, and as we pick up the live stream footage there now, in this headwind, Bisho, they're definitely closing up, but sitting there in third, if one of these two makes a blinks for a split second, we're going to have a new race leader.
Yeah, absolutely. This is absolutely on like Donkey Kong at the moment in the 600 horsepower category. And you'll see it graphically displayed. In fact, we see the drone shots for the people watching at home and the people on side here. Watch the ground that the Sting is making up. Although TCR have woken up to them a little bit, I think, mate, and just running a slightly wider line, and that seems to work for them a bit.
Yeah, it certainly has. So they've pushed out a little bit wider. You're talking about squaring off the corners and losing a bit of acceleration, but they definitely, and that's probably tactics, Bish. I'm not going to do the same thing twice. I'm going to keep you guessing, so the guys chasing really have to be on point. But good, strong drive from the Scotty and the boys out in front in TCR right now.
Yeah, I love this 600 horsepower category. It's so tight, so close. All these boats have to run stock standard 300 horsepower engines, a pair of them, combining to make 600 horsepower, hence the name 600 horsepower. Supercat category. Maritimo now down through the bottom turn and really starting to make a little bit of a break on the 222 Team Navy racing machine. Darren Nicholson and Muddy McGrath. They won't be happy with that gap, mate. They'll be going through that boat after this one.
Yeah, certainly, and the throttles, the stops will be absolutely pegged all the way through. Bisho, I didn't get a chance to catch up with our Superboat teams, but I don't think they're expecting these flat water conditions, so they will have had to strategically completely change what they're doing this weekend. I know that the Navy boys, they were thinking it was going to be that horrible Port Phillip chop that we're probably going to see tomorrow, but today they're left a little bit wanting, I think.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Murph, and as you say, I hope we do get some rough water conditions tomorrow just to mix it up and see who's good in the rough water. I think Mark the Russian is probably praying for rough water for tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. It's not these big guys as well. Like, if you've never seen a superboat in its element, like these things are designed to just go through anything at speed. The smaller boats, not so. They'll be working very, very hard, 65, 85 tomorrow when that wind gets up a little bit. But very happy faces down there in pit lane. But and some, a lot of happy faces in the crowd if you've never been to superboat racing. But as we look down at this back straight again, Bisho, there is a blanket over these three boats in the 600 class.
Mate, you can do a postage stamp over these guys. They're that tight at the moment. It's unbelievable. But the other thing too, mate, we've got plenty going on here at Wyndham Harbour. The joint's looking absolutely beautiful, Murph. Like, we started coming here when this was just a patch of dirt, but now it's absolutely beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, I was a little bit late this morning because I hadn't finished my mini golf, and I was on for a record run. So the mini golf, the bar, the open fire, the food here is phenomenal. And a real credit to the Wyndham Harbour guys. The manager here is one of the happiest blokes I've ever met in my life. And they're doing a great job of developing. This is the jewel of the West, as we call it over here. It's just an incredible facility if you're into boating, fuel on the water. It's unbelievable. But it's so nice to have them back, Wyndham City Council, and all the supporters of this international event.
Mate, I was all for your mini golf until you pushed that little kid over. I thought you could have eased up there. 600 horsepower boats now as they go down through the bottom turn, and it's TCR still with a little bit of a gap to the Sting, but AMT making a hard charge. Maritimo now starting to have to deal with a little bit of traffic now as they just roll around the outside of the Saracen. And Team Navy, can Team Navy use some of this slower traffic to their advantage, Mert?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because obviously the closing speed on these boats, you're talking 40, 50 mile an hour. It depends where it comes up. The light and nimble 600s obviously point and shoot, but the big boats, they have to plan a corner, and taking evasive action isn't part of it. So there will be a difference, particularly when they get to this pack of three. They're really going to have to potentially modify the way they're getting around the circuit. Hey Bish, you're the expert. You've been following and supporting and commentating this category forever. The engine note difference between the two Maritimo boats, can you talk me through that?
Yeah, basically two different engine builders, Murph. And I was actually chatting, so obviously Kurt, who's the engine builder for Maritimo, and Johnny Barbagallo, who does actually this boat here, the Superbad, and also the 222 engines. It was interesting talking to Kurt this morning. They changed valve springs, and he actually said that changing to a different type of valve spring actually changes the note of the engine. So little simple things like that can actually make them sound different.
Yeah, right. I wasn't sure whether it was a rev thing or whatever, but they are running different engine builders, different ways of building horsepower. I heard you before, like 2,000 horsepower in these boats. Later on today, I think they're going to get one of these boats, or they'll be down on the dock that you get a chance to look at it. They are an awesome bit of engineering. They're frightening when you get close to one in the water.
They are absolutely beautiful, and the other thing too. Sorry, mate, I'm just getting messages everywhere here from race director. Yeah, he knows I can only do one thing at a time. But, mate, the engines are just absolutely beautiful. And, okay, so I've checked my messages, folks, and have a listen in on this one. And for those of you at home, Maritimo 12, 1 minute penalty for failing to round Mark C on lap number 3. Mark C. Murph. This has opened it up, because I'll give you the tip. That ain't a minute between those two boats.
You're spot on. At the battle here in the front, this is getting interesting. But that's the Maritimo boat we're talking. The race leader, start your clock now, and you're talking maybe 20 seconds. They have a 1 minute penalty for missing a turn. So that's turn boys C, which I believe is right down the front end of the course. I'm not sure how. We talked about potentially the lap traffic, having to make them change, but maybe a moment's lacking concentration, but they gotta find a minute, Bish.
They do, Murph, and I've just pulled out the stopwatch, so I'm just going to find a marker there, and I'll let you know this is only my timing, but the gap between Maritimo and 222 is around about 10 seconds. So there is a lot there to make up. Maritimo are going to have to try and win this by over a minute. And Murph, as we go on board with the Sting, if you're watching at home on the live stream, fantastic shots coming from both in the cockpit and off the back of the boat as the Sting is engaged in this absolute head-to-head battle with TCR. They tip him down the back straight away at the moment, and we watch Superbad coming through, just ticking off another lap for them. And I'll tell you what, it'll open it up a little bit for Superbad as well with his minute penalty. They're probably a lot longer than a minute behind, but it's going to help them.
It certainly will, mate. And just the footage here this weekend from the GP Hydro live stream crew, the drone footage, unbelievable. That speedo on the Sting, 105 miles an hour with that tailwind. So if you're not a boat racer, we always talk miles an hour, mate, you're talking 170 kilometres an hour. They're a fair way away from you. It might not look that fast in the week. So they are running 170 k's an hour, building back up now on the live stream, 97, 98, 99, back up to 100 miles an hour. And TCR is about 5 feet away. We are 3 boats wide on the live stream, Bish.
Unbelievable stuff. 3 boats wide, as Murph just said, and the Sting pushing them all along. I bet they didn't expect that from the newcomers into the category, in particular Mike Ratcliffe And now, so at the moment, Maritimo, although leading the race, is running in second position. This is your new race leader in Supercat Extreme, the Navy 222, and new race leader in 600 horsepower, the Sting, as they shut the door on TCR. TCR has to walk across their wash. AMT still keeps looking up the inside. This is turning into an absolute ding-dong, Murph.
It's unbelievable. Those guys, they've been threatening on the outside line. We talked about their strategy. They've now gotten clear and they started to open a gap. And TCR now coming under pressure from AMT. Bisho, the time between our two boats in the front, the Maritimo machines?
9.99 seconds.
That's iPhone official timing, but they have 50 seconds to find. I don't know if they got it in them.
Mate, I don't think they will have. I mean, if things continue to go the way they are, this is massive for Maritimo. And I tell you what, they will be absolutely spitting chips with that mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not what you would expect out of an internationally celebrated team, but things happen out there. So these big boats, what sort of numbers are they pulling out there, Dave?
Well, the boats are capable of around 150 miles an hour, and you'd have to say that depending on how they're propped and geared up today, they're well into the 130, 140 mark.
Yeah, so that's big numbers, well over 240 k's an hour, and a little yellow turn buoy coming past in the spray is an easy thing to miss. Should mention the crew from the Sting on their live stream, Racing for Lockie Bisho. It's been a big part of their program for a few years now.
Yeah, absolutely. Carl Wall racing for his son Lockie, of course, who we lost a few years ago now. And they're always racing for Lockie, and they do an awesome job. And Lockie's here with us, looking down and enjoying the boat racing. And I'll give you the tip, enduring Dad winning at the moment.
You're not wrong. He'll be pretty proud of the old man right now. I'm not sure if he'll be pinching himself in there, he'll be holding his breath, or he'll just be reminding himself to breathe. We're in front. But they threatened this a little bit last year, and it looks like right now they've really got it together. It's great to see.
Mate, the Skater Cats have always been a fantastic boat. This is a much older boat, and I'm sure a fair bit heavier than the other boats that are actually currently behind them. But they've just got so much setup going into this boat. It's a fantastic effort. Murph's just on the timing now, so don't forget Maritimo in front, but they have a minute penalty, and Team Navy 222 come through, and it's well and truly. Yep, in fact, 222 have made up a couple of tenths on that lap, so I'll tell you what, it's going to be a very, very hard day at the office for Team Maritimo. We go back on board, Racing for Lockie with the Sting. Camera looking backwards if you're watching on the live stream. And the real battle now, they have absolutely streaked the field in this 600 horsepower category. TCR are now having the heat applied to them by AMT. So the AMT now starting to make a play after a horror start for them, and getting up and about. Andy Taylor and Paul Folds just chipping away at this one now. Yeah, mate, the Gold Coast Sensations have come down. The boat looks immaculate, and they present it well. The team made a lot of work, and TCR definitely under pressure. The two old boys in TCR, they'll be blowing pretty hard. That gap now, Sting back to the battle pack behind him now, just opened up to nearly 10 seconds that time through, Bisho. Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's unbelievable stuff. This is great racing in this category. I tell you what, the Saracen boys will be absolutely spitting chips at the moment. Superbad now comes down through the bottom turn, but you can see with the Saracen machine that they are well and truly off the pace. Superbad still looking very, very good. The Saracen just exits the bottom turn and accelerates away down the back straight. Mate, the Saracen boat will be the quickest boat in the field. I'll give you the tip on that, but they need to get the development into these new engines. Yeah, certainly right. It was a massive move because they've had so much success, won this series before, Bish, so they were a well-proven package, but this is new technology, four-stroke. The potential gains, obviously they developed where they, to the extent that they could. They've now got a brand new engine package, so potentially they will move further forward than they have been before. Whilst we're looking at all this amazing footage and this wraps up, big shout out to Russell Emerton, race control. I was downstairs before. As always, very cool, very calm, got it all happening down there. So big shout out to him and all his volunteers. Yeah, absolutely. And Benny Embleton, his son, that's come on board as well, mate. He's doing a fantastic job. He's been helping us out. He helped us set up here and just doing an awesome job. So thanks a lot, boys. Russell always working hard, and we've got the timing going here on these two boats because although Maritimo's in front, they got that minute penalty, and looks like 222 may have just lost a couple of tenths, but I tell you what, mate, they're still well and truly in front by near on 50-odd seconds. Yeah, absolutely, and this gap back to the Sting. Last time through, Bish, they were 10 seconds. I'll run the official iPhone timer on them. They are streaking away, but the battle with TCR and AMT now, I reckon, costing these chasing teams some time. Absolutely right. So the battle going on here in 600 horsepower category, and we have only got 7 odd minutes left to run in this one, and the Sting looking absolutely dominant here at the moment in the 600 horsepower category. TCR seem to have found a little bit of pace. They've managed to just gap AMT only slightly since the previous lap. Both these boats very, very similar hulls, very similar power. There'd be absolutely nothing in this between these two guys, Murph.
No, the TCR machine obviously underwent a massive remodelling, Bish, that boat bought from New Zealand, had separate cockpits, one on each side of the boat. They ran it for a little while, and the team just weren't happy. They want the communication side by side, so pretty much tore the boat to bits and rebuilt it, and great to see it out. It's very competitive, and the weather's going to change everything, Bish. When this water starts to rough up, a whole new element will come into play depending on their setups.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Also, rain. These boats don't have windscreen wipers and they don't have demisters, Murph. So, unless they've got the airflow right in these boats, they could we could see cockpits steaming up. We could see windscreens not being able to see out of, and we could see some weird stuff go on.
Yeah, it's not a bad option, is it? I want you to take a boat that's 45 feet long, weighs however many tonnes, at nearly 250 kilometres an hour, and then we're going to fog up the window on you.
No air conditioners in these boats, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. So a lot of the teams, they all, obviously run the Rain-X systems on the screens, on the insides and the outsides. But the rain can cause all sorts of extra dramas. Maritimo goes through, ticks off another lap with 5 minutes and 40 seconds left to run in this. They are running under the dark cloud of a minute penalty. 222 Navy Racing. Can they take out race number 1 here at round number 1 of the Australian Offshore Superboat Championship? They've lost another couple of tenths, but mate, they need to lose seconds and seconds. In fact, about 50 of them if they're going to get beaten here today.
Yeah, there are, and I'm not sure whether they won't be probably aware of that penalty unless they saw it happen. But look at the Rooster Tail as that boat builds speed out of here, out of turn number 1. They are hammer and tong. They're not letting up. And I tell you what, Bish, I think we've got something happening in the back straight there. Maritimo just out here. I think they've come back off the pace.
Mate, there's been a problem. We can see them coming to the stop. One of the cameramen will try and pick that up for us and just see what has gone on there. But 105 miles an hour now for the Sting as they go down the back chute. And they are doing an absolutely awesome job. So fantastic effort here from the Sting Racing Vloggy, and that is, we see them, the forlorn sight of Maritimo sitting on the back straightaway, and it has stopped, so that's unfortunate. This battle continues on between TCR and AMT as they come down into the bottom turn. The Sting has absolutely blown their chines off, Murph.
They are pushing at 120%. I tell you what, Andy Taylor and Paul Fowles, a lot of experience there. They will not let this rest. They are going to throw down in this next couple of minutes because we can't have too long to go. But that is heartbreak for Maritimo. We can see the canopy lid pop, radio control, we know they're okay. But what about the boys from Superbad? Thank you very much. That's going to put them one step on the podium in race number 1 of round number 1, Biff.
They won't be sad about that one, Murph. In fact, they'll be absolutely ecstatic, and so they should be. They've done a great job. Some guys that won't be ecstatic will be these guys. We've got Matt Kelly and Anthony DeFina, unfortunately, just with a not very speedy at all Saracen at the moment. AMT and TCR fire at the back straightaway. TCR gets another little bit of a break as they go at the back straight. 3 minutes and 39 seconds to run in this one, Murph.
Yeah, just watching Saracen through that turn, so the boat looks uncharacteristically wet. And when I say that, I mean it looks like there's a lot of boat in the water.
Yep.
It's throwing a lot of spray off the chines, and traditionally that boat really dances. So obviously different gear case, I think, to what they would have been running previously. Different hydrodynamics, that's a big word. On the back of the boat, thank you.
Do you know what it means?
No, that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, no, 100%, Murph. They're a bigger gearbox on these 300Rs. They're still a Sportmaster type gearbox. They run the low water pickups for those technically minded. So same shape as the earlier one, but a bigger gearbox. So, there's more drag there potentially, all sorts of different things. The other thing too is depending on what gear ratios and of course propellers to suit the torque curve of these V8 engines. So they've got a lot of sorting out to do. As I said to you, mate, this will be the quickest boat in the field once it's sorted out. But at the moment, they're in struggle town. Yeah,
no doubt, Bish. So we'll get some lap times after this one, but it'll be interesting. I reckon they'll make gains over the course of this weekend. Bit of chatter from race control on the radio now as we watch the Sting. Currently coming headwind at 104 miles an hour, Bish. Their mid-corner speed I picked up on that last lap. They were 85 mile an hour in the mid-corner.
Mike Radcliffe working overtime on the wheel too, mate. He's absolutely steering that thing like a V8 supercar at the moment as he tips it down into the port turn at the bottom end of this beautiful Wyndham Harbour course. And, of course, Carl Wall just hard on the throttles, mate. I don't think they've come off the stoppers all race.
No, he'll be talking him through it. It's an interesting concept, isn't it? Try that when you go on the way home. One of you do the pedals and one of you steer. The trust and cooperation between these two. Why do they do it that way, Bishop?
Yeah, we were chatting about it actually a bit earlier on, Murph, but it's all about the throttle man, more so in rough water. On a day like this, you probably could have a foot throttle and just have one person doing it. But in proper offshore water, where you're coming out of the water and jumping, when the propellers break free of the water, they rev free, and obviously there's no load on them. So the throttle man has to come off the throttles, pull the engine RPM back. But the secret to that is when you re-enter, you need to be back on the throttles, because if the propellers are going slower than the boat speed, you'll actually trip the back of the boat up and stuff the nose of the boat in. So when you land, you actually have to throttle the boat back on again to keep the bows of the boat up. So the throttle man's that busy concentrating on wave to wave and jump to jump, he couldn't concentrate on steering as well. Okay. That's why two guys have to do it. Yeah, righto. So there you go. Perfectly explained. Thank you very much for the novices out there, including myself, mate. But well, it's all good in theory, Murph. Yeah, I'm glad they give me a shot at that. This would end badly, but imagine you and I racing an offshore boat. We'd never be friends again. No. Have a look at the attitude of this big Navy machine as it rolls into turn number one. They are an absolute joy to behold. And we see a yellow flag there, Murph, come up. So it's last lap now for Darren Nicholson and Peter the Madman Muddy McGrath as they fire up into the back straight for the final time in the Navy 222 racing. These boys run an Australian operation and a US operation, Murph, and have done extremely well over in the US representing Australia and representing the Australian Navy as well over there. So big thank you for their support. Back straight away now, Wyndham Harbour, Australia, Victoria. And it is Team Navy 222 out in front. We have had, unfortunately, Maritimo 12 come to a grinding hold up the back straight. They seem to be, are they just moving a little bit there, Murph? Yeah, they are back underway. So this, they've obviously seen something they don't like in the cockpit shut down, but they are now getting the boat back up onto the plane because they know there's a minute to go. Bisho, bit of tactics, they will potentially get a race finish if they cross the line and get points in race number one of this massive Australian Championship Series. I don't reckon Mike Radcliffe can actually believe his eyes at the moment. They set off on their final lap in the Sting and they have decimated, absolutely torn apart this 600 horsepower field, and all TCR can do is watch them drive away. Having said that, they've put a good gap on AMT now. Yeah, the pressure was extended over much of the race distance. First they had the Sting all over them and moving past them, then AMT pushed right up. So credit to the boys, so Steve and Richo inside that boat. Oh, we got a big spin out. AMT's gone round. Oh, they've kept it upright. Oh, that was a massive spin out there for AMT. Unbelievable stuff. Andy Taylor and Paul Folds, they get the boat going again. Can they get it up and going? Have they done damage? That's the question. That was a huge go around for those guys. They get it up and going, and give it up for them, ladies and gentlemen. Paul Folds and Andy Taylor. Massive spin out for those boys. That would have been 90 mile an hour, Murph. Yeah, they were pushing, as I said, they were pushing hard. They would not give up. This is one lap to go, and they've just rotated the boat. How that boat stayed upright, Bishop, is beyond me. Oh, Murph, I need a little lie down. Can we have a hug? Oh, my God. I thought they were over for sure. So, Saracen comes through and still not making up the ground, but it is race leader and it's going to be race winner. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Team 222 Offshore Racing, Navy, Darren Nicholson and Peter Muddy McGrath getting the job done for Team Navy. I tell you what, if you're going to spin a boat out, Bisso, where do you do it? You do it right in front of the crowd, Murph. If you're looking for sponsorship opportunities, get on to see the boys from AMT Racing. We owe them a beer after that one, I think, son. We might need a couple of new race suits down there after that one as well. Oh, yeah, there's a very good dry cleaner here in Wyndham Harbour. Okay, so Maritimo, they're going to come through. They've got their strobe light flashing, which means you've got an issue of it. Put your hands together for them. They do bring it home. It's Tom Barry Cotter and Ross Willerton in Maritimo 12 coming through, and they will pick up third place after being overhauled. But I tell you what, this has been the drive of the race. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a domination from the newcomer. Unbelievable stuff. Mickey Radcliffe, Carl Wall, the Sting, doing it for Lockie. Take the win in the 600 horsepower category.
So I cannot recall, I'm going to run a clock, I cannot recall watching this 600 horsepower category and seeing this kind of gap in any series that I've been around. That was an absolutely phenomenal drive for race one. This is the first time they've had these boats out in anger, and you can see on board they are high-fiving, mate.
Ecstatic, and so they should be. Keep the applause coming, ladies and gentlemen. A great run there, solid from TCR, Scotty Richardson and Stavros Kelly. And what's the gap there, Murph?
Just on 30 seconds. 30
gap.
seconds in a 600 horsepower Supercat. That's unbelievable.
Next boat to come through, put your hands together. Superman, Ryan Coleman in his first race, and Stevie J in so far from his first race is not funny.
900 years old. Well, dog years, I think that is, but unbelievable. And Superbad heading straight back into pit lane.
Have a go at this big spin out, and they still get on the podium. Put your hands together. Team 77, AMT Racing, Andy Taylor and Paul Folds, and they are straight off to the Wyndham Harbour dry cleaners. Final boat home, Murph, and it is Saracen, and it just doesn't look speedy at all, unfortunately, for these guys. They have got some work to do, but solid run. They've got the boat home, and it's points in the bank. So Team Saracen come through and complete the course. Anthony DeFina and Matthew Kelly, and I can assure you there won't be happy faces in that cockpit.
No, they're incredibly competitive. So Anthony DeFina, obviously the Commodore of the Australian Offshore Powerboat Club, and actually I believe on the Offshore Superboat Council. So a real driving force in bringing these events down here to beautiful Melbourne. Not just one, Bish, we've got two down here. So we've got one here now, and then a couple of weeks' time we go down there to
Geelong,
down there
Corio Bay.
Corio Bay.
That other joint down the road.
The other one. Sorry, I got sidetracked because I was thinking about how flat this is right now. And as I said earlier, that would have really surprised a few of these teams, mate. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some changes and set up in the pit, and it could all turn on its head for race number 2 tomorrow.
Yeah, mate. Well, final race for them today. Now, I'm behind the monitor, so the camera, the boys can't see me. There we go. There's us. That's what we look like, folks. You'd rather not be watching us, wouldn't you? Anyway, that next race by Corio Bay, 18th, 19th of March. So, Murph, thanks for joining me in commentary. Are you going to come back for the last race?
Oh, mate, it depends. My young fella, if they're out there, I probably won't be any good to you up here, because I'll be pacing up and down like a cat. But, mate, thank you for what you do for the sport, for this series. As I said, it's great to have you along board with your knowledge, and mate, you always make it exciting. Even if there's nothing happening out there, you just can never tell. Big shout out to the guys from GP Hydro for bringing it around the world. Had a quick look earlier. We've got comments coming in from all around the world. So
excellent.
Well done to the
camera crews. Any of them good?
Most of them.
Oh, good. Okay.
Nothing about us personally, but mostly about the quality of the boat.
That's fair enough too. Well, thanks everybody that's watching. We'll be back for the last race, 3 p.m. local time here. Thank you, Andrew Murphy. Good luck to your son in the next race.
Thank you, Bisso. I might head down there, I think, now and order something from the menu down there. It's pretty. I've been watching this food get around. It's pretty good. So that's what be where you find me, Bish.
I tell you, just quickly before we go, get down to Wyndham Harbour, folks. Beautiful down here. Sit by the water, have a pizza, have a beer, get onto it. We'll be back with race number 3 at 3 p.m. Tom Barry-Cotter, driver of Maritimo. Welcome to Melbourne.
Thank you, Bisho. Yeah, good to be here.
It's been a little while, COVID, and you guys have been very busy building cruisers and doing all sorts of stuff. You just told me an interesting fact about your co-driver, though.
Yeah, Roscoe, he's just walking past here. This is season number 49 for him, so one more to get to the half century. But yeah, look, I hope it's going to be a good one.
Mate, I hope you've listened to the podcast we did with Roscoe. It was very interesting to catch up with him. I'll probably have to do one with you, mate. What's the plan for today?
Mate, just doing a bit of some shakedown testing just this morning, and we'll pluck her out. And these aren't the props we're going to run today. We're just some old ones we can throw on in case we damage them or anything in the test. But yeah, just make sure everything's good. Systems are all okay, and then into race 1, we've got the pole for race 1. So I just hope we can come away with some points today.
So tell me about this. This shakedown's obviously about engines, transmissions, drives, trim systems, all the stuff, the systems in the boat, not about seeing how quick it'll go. You already know what props you want to run?
We got an idea just from based on here from previous years, but and the weather changes so quickly here too, so you know it can come up pretty quick. So we'll just keep an eye on the weather up until the last minute before we got to drop in and make the final call then. So it's no point testing something now because it's probably going to be a bit different by this afternoon. So
fair enough, mate. And tell me, XCAT, what's happening in that world for us, please?
We're building a new hull, yeah. So, but we can set that up either in X-Cat or as a super stock, so or Supercat 600. So, so we can set up either way. So we're just sort of waiting on finding out what's going and get some more stability back in the calendar, and then we'll be looking at that as well.
Well, hopefully you can do a 600 boat, mate. But I don't know how you're going to drive 2 boats at once.
No, that's it. It's going to be pretty hard. So, but it would be fun to mix it up and come play in the other class for a little bit.
Good on you, Tom. Thanks for coming to Melbourne, mate. We love seeing you here, and good luck this weekend.
No worries. Thanks, Fisho.
Good on you, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Andy Defina, Saracen, new engines, mate. New season, new engines. Tell us about them, please.
Yeah, morning, Dave. Yeah, it's been a project for the last 6 months. So at the end of last season, sort of evaluated a few things. I thought at the time, you know, the 300 XS is a bit old. They've done a lot of work, and the 300R's been out 3 or 4 years now. And in the US, probably 60-70% of the teams are running them now in our equivalent class. So we bit the bullet and got it on the water about this time last week was our first run.
Just for the fans at home, mate, explain the differences between the 2 engines.
Well, it's a 4-stroke. That's the biggest difference. So we had the old 2-strokes, the direct injection XSs. Great engine, really fuel efficient, but the 4-strokes V8, bigger capacity. It's a whole different feel.
4.6 litre quad cam, 4-valve per cylinder. We love them, don't we?
Sounds sexy when you say it like that, doesn't it? So, no, the initial testing has been really good. We're down a bit on top speed where we were, but you know, a little bit more testing, just with a different torque curve and props and things we need. But certainly the initial feel and initial performance and acceleration is really good.
Looks awesome, mate. Round number 1, we'll let you go. You want to get going, welcome back, and we'll have a great season.
Thanks, Fisho. Talk soon.